Good luck, Stephen. You've got this.
Thank you very much. There we go. Thank you very much, Kay. Okay, so I think that's everybody in the meeting now. If there are any problems, I'm just going to go through a few ground rules to start with, just because it's such a large Zoom meeting. The screen you're seeing in front of you is the normal screen that we would have up behind the chair of council at council. It's just the same PowerPoint that you're normally used to. Now, there's a few ground rules of this slightly extraordinary council. First off is how to get the attention of the chair, etc. Now, the best way to do this is to, well, we're going to be using two reacts, as they're called. And you'll find these in the participants tab on your Zoom call. They're just at the bottom of the participants tab. That's the same on both tablet devices and laptops. The two reacts we're going to be using are the clap react, which we're going to be using for points of information, and if you would like to make a procedural amendment. And the second, more important one, is the raise hand react, which is to nominate yourself for an election, or if you would like to speak. Now, just because there's so many people on my screen, I might not spot you immediately, but there are other people who are also looking out, and they will message me and prompt me. So I'm sorry if I'm a little bit slow off the mark in spotting you if you'd like to speak, but please use those ones. Use those ones in the participants tab rather than the ones that appear on your camera, because I can't see all of you simultaneously, so I can't see if you've necessarily done that, just because we've got the screen share on as well. If you have any problems with your ability to vote on beer or anything like that at all, we have somebody in the Zoom call who you can message. They're just called IT support. And you can direct message them by going to participants, and you just find them, and you can just message them there. On top of that, one of the ground rule we have is, before this council started, we asked if people would like to guarantee their ability to speak on certain topics and things. And so for certain motions later on in council, there are priority speakers who have emailed in and asked to be able to speak, and they will definitely be allowed to speak in this council. Now, other than that, it's a fairly usual council, apart from us all being at home. So we're going to start things off with essentially passing many of the things that we would normally pass in a normal student's council. Now, I don't think there's any other messages to deliver. I'm pretty sure that that's everything. If you have any questions or any problems at all, again, please don't hesitate to message a member of staff or the IT support. Now, moving on to the agenda. The agenda was circulated beforehand, as were all reports and documents. They should have been emailed out to you, and they'll be available on the NUSU website. So we begin with the minutes of the previous meeting. I've received no objections to the minutes of the previous meeting currently. And as things stand, unless there is an objection now, these are deemed as passed and accepted by this council. If there are any objections, please make yourself known now. That's good. I was going to say silence, but then I suppose it's just emotes anyway. One thing just to remind people before we continue is if you could please just make sure that you have successfully logged into OnBeer. And sorry, I should have covered that right at the beginning. If you just make sure you are logged into OnBeer, and again, if you've had any problems, please just message IT support. And we'll revisit this, and I'll repeat the things about the different emotes throughout the council. Okay, now we're moving on to students' union elections. These are the elections to various committees in the union. The first one being the steering committee, and the second one being the scrutiny committee. I'll just briefly explain what those two committees are. We're seeking nominees for people who will be at university next year who can sit on these committees throughout the next academic year. Steering committee is looking for 6 students, and what steering committee essentially does is it looks at motions before they come to council, make sure that they're appropriate, grammatically correct, and that they fit with the constitution, etc. And that committee, it's very important, very fun. I'll be sat on it this year. If you'd like to nominate yourself for that, please just indicate that by raising your hand now, and your names will be written down, and there will be an election held if there are more nominees than there are places on the committee. Hopefully, I think these are being written down now. And essentially, I think we've got 2 nominees at the moment. That's double check that, but that's Elizabeth Mead and Owen Lukens have nominated themselves for steering committee currently. If anybody else would like to nominate themselves for steering committee, just your final call now. Just raise your hand with the react, and we can add you to that ballot. Okay. Well, because we've got less nominees than the nomination places, unless there are any objections, which you can signal by doing the clap emote, then you, Owen and Elizabeth, are successfully deemed elected to the steering committee for the upcoming academic year. You can put your hands down now, I guess. Thank you very much. Now, moving on to the scrutiny committee. Now, the scrutiny committee is a committee that essentially scrutinises minutes and various other things throughout the union, especially the student council minutes. It's chaired by the chair of scrutiny. It's quite an important committee that we always need members for, and there are 7 spaces on the scrutiny committee. If anyone would like to put themselves forward for sitting on the scrutiny committee, we need 7 spaces, and so I'll just ask for nominations for that now. If you'd like to nominate yourself, please put your hand up by pressing the participants tab and going to the blue hand icon. Brilliant. We've got Alicia and Jennifer Mills have signed up for that one. If anybody else would like to, please raise your hand now. Oh, and I've got Elizabeth Mead again, yes. Yeah, Nick Sundin, sorry, they're just coming through a bit slower on my. Lewis Telford. So that's 6 nominations for the scrutiny committee.
There's Rabs as well, Stephen.
Is there? Sorry, it's only showing 6. Oh yeah, Rabs as well. There we go. We've got 7 for 7. Would anybody else like to apply? No. And that is 7, isn't it? No, that's 6. Sorry, I can't count apparently. Sorry about that. Yes, that's okay. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Your names have been noted down. So that's 6 nominees to the scrutiny committee. You can place your hands down now, guys. Thank you very much for that. As there are 7 spaces and 6 applicants, you are all deemed elected to the scrutiny committee unless there are any objections. If you'd like to lodge an objection, please put your hands in the clap position on the participants' reactions. All right, no, okay, you are deemed elected. Thank you very much. You should be receiving, all of those people who've just nominated themselves for those 2 committees will be receiving emails over the next couple of days. Yeah, essentially there's no need for an election because there's a lower number of nominees than there are places. So you're all deemed elected as of this council, as long as this council is deemed quorate. That brings us to our final section of the student union elections, which is the senior returning officer. So council is essentially being asked, what you're being asked here is if you would like to re-elect Tom Brumold, who is the senior returning officer for things like the student elections, which have just happened. If you'd like to re-elect him to continue to be the senior returning officer for NUSU, essentially. Now, basically, this is just a confirmatory vote, a rubber stamp, and it's essentially I'm just asking if there are any objections to Tom Brumold being re-elected as the senior returning officer. He's been the senior returning officer for a number of years now, I should add. If anybody has any objections to him remaining as the senior returning officer, please could you use the clap reaction now to signal that. No? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on then. That's Tom Brumold re-elected by this council, or his election accepted by this council. And we're going to move on to the reports. We have not received a scrutiny report, but the steering report, the steering committee report has been submitted. This is what I'm going to do now is I'm essentially, you'll be familiar with, if you're a regular council goer, that we often pass all of the reports separately, often in different blocks, depending on what they are. But just for the sake of brevity and to try and decomplicate it, trying to decomplicate this council, what we're going to do is we're going to just read out the reports that have been submitted that this council will accept. All of these reports are available for you to view on the NUSU website, and I think they're in the attached documents that should have been sent out prior to this council as well. It's essentially just a question of if there's any known objections to any of these reports. And so the reports that I'm asking you to consider are the following reports. It's the steering and scrutiny, all of the officer reports and executive committee minutes. So I'm just going to list what they are. That includes the AU Executive Committee, the Societies Executive Committee, the Education Executive Committee, the Media Executive Committee, the Hall and Communities Executive Committee, the Welfare Campaigns and Liberation Executive Committee, the Volunteering Executive Committee, the Junior Returning Officer Report, and then also it's your Liberation and NUSU elected Liberation Officer and NUSU Chair end of year reports that have been submitted, along with all of the reports from the sabbatical officers. I know that's a lot to take in, but essentially all of these reports and minutes are essentially deemed passed anyway by this council, unless there is a objection to them, in which case we can vote on them. And so I'd just like to ask anybody in the call right now, if you have an objection to any of those committee minutes or reports at all, could you please signal that once again by using the clap reaction. It's just in the participants tab on the call. If not, we can continue. Right. Okay, I think I'm going to take that as there are no objections. Yeah, right, brilliant, fantastic. Okay, we're going to move on to the State of the Union report. This is one report which was omitted from all that block, and it is one that can be given by our illustrious president now, who has just been unmuted. So Katie, would you like to take it away with the State of the Union report?
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, so I have submitted this. You should have access to it somewhere, but I'll just read it out as well. So it's the final one, and it's called Unprecedented. Right. So what a term it's been for everyone. Completely unprecedented, in fact. First off, I'm going to quickly take it back to the pre-COVID days and reflect on a bit of the work we were doing in the flesh and post-March as council. So obviously, annoyingly, a lot of the things we started working on got trumped by recent circumstances, so the updates probably aren't as rounded as we'd hoped by the time of our last ever council. But hey ho, these things happen, but it is unprecedented. So work on graduation costs, real living wage, buses to Cochrane Park, policy review group work, and hate crime champions. I just wanted to reiterate that none of that's been forgotten, and we still continue our work on that. Just wanted to flag as well to those of you that attended the summit that Sarah held. So thank you to you all for contributing to that. It was really important, and it's definitely not an easy feat to publicly speak into a group of people you don't know, but you all spoke so well and should be proud of how you got your points across in that as well. I know it's definitely an incredibly difficult, unprecedented and distressing time for many at the minute, and it's a transition we're all still getting used to, but just on a personal note, I just wanted to say that the way everyone's adapted, kept positive, and continue to do incredible things from lockdown is exactly what Newcastle's all about. So moving on to our award season, which will be going ahead as, quote unquote normal. Although we'll be presenting them in different ways, it's important that all the amazing work you lot have done gets the credit and recognition it deserves, even in this unprecedented time. So a well done to all our winners and shortlisted students, and keep an eye on social for that stuff, which will be released this week and next. Lastly, as well, I just wanted to take a minute to say well done to all of our incoming officers. I think it's definitely a very unprecedented time, and in campaigning alone, you've shown your worthiness, passion and drive. So remember that. Be excited. I know you're definitely in for a ride, but it'll be a good one. Personal, quick, unprecedented Zoom shout out now to our incredible students whose work throughout this whole year has been remarkable and who, in light of COVID, have not shied away. So firstly, our incredible Liberation officers who have rallied to the challenge in providing support and resources to our students whilst dealing with stress of their own. I just want to say that your hard work hasn't and isn't being ignored. To all our reps who have ramped up their workloads to represent and keep people informed, continue to hold the uni to account. I'm sure you're some of our best ambassadors. To our clubs, societies and courier editors who continue in their own fabulous ways to brighten the days of many of our students, your dedication is inspiring, and definitely them running challenges, which I am not in a fit enough state to do. Obviously, to the SABs, it's been real. And yeah, to all our students out there being patient and doing bits and helping each other through this unprecedented time, you are definitely the best of NUSU. So lastly, I suppose, whilst we're all suffering from butt ache, Zoom fatigue, personal pent anger for Joe Wicks, irritation at yoga and frustrations with IT on the daily, stick with it, keep going, and please do lean on to our incredible Newcastle community. And remember that this time, this unprecedented time, will soon pass and be a distant memory. So just from all of us SABs, I want to thank everyone for everything this year. You've been ace. It's been unprecedented. Over and out. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Katie. And people have opportunities to question Katie and all of the sabbatical team now, as it's questions and mandates to the sabbatical officers. If you have a question for any sabbatical officer, please could you just raise your hand with the on the participant menu, and you'll find the raise your hand react. And if you just want to raise your hand, what we can do is I'll unmute you, tell you who you want to ask it to, and then we can unmute them so they can respond. Right, okay, I've got Matty Lacey with his hand up, so I'm just gonna find you and unmute you, sir. There we go. And
hello there, Mr. Dawes. Hello, how you doing? You all right? You're looking very well. You're charming. You all right? Looking very smart in that tweed. Hello, everybody, as well. Great to see you all. Hope you're keeping well at this current time. In terms of the sabbatical officers, do you think that the impact is you would have liked to have done more with the impact on the kind of still the discrimination and inequality going on at the university and the lack of progress in initiation, actual change within the university outside of the Students' Union in terms of, cases of still racist abuse, intimidation, sexism, and funding still not really going to the SU. Again, do you think personally this has been a strain on you? And again, I'd like to thank you all for being at Newcastle Uni and providing support for the community. So, cheers.
Shall I reply to that one? And maybe Katie can chip in as well. So, yeah, obviously we're very aware of of racism, particularly, amidst this COVID-19 crisis and how it affects particularly the East and South Asian communities. We hope that we've provided enough signposting online. Rabs also supported us with that on the COVID community page. And prior to us going into lockdown, we did quite a lot of work with Stand Up to Racism. In terms of reporting, so me and Katie are currently sitting on the policy review group. So we're reviewing how, the hate crime and hate related incident policies are for the university are taking place and how we can improve them. We're also really working hard to get hate crime ambassadors and hate crime champions in place, and a hate crime channel on the report and support system. So, it'll be a job definitely for the SAVs to take over next year, because it's the end of our term now, but it's something that we've really worked hard on. And we're looking at other external businesses like Show Racism the Red Card and Northumbria Police to support us with the training with that. So it's something that's definitely one of the big priorities, as Katie outlined in her State of the Union report, and it's something that I know that next year SABs will be passionate about, and hopefully liberation officers as well. So
yeah, just can I feedback quickly there, Stephen?
Yeah, I was just Katie. Do you want
to just quickly saying, Sarah, you've been fantastic, and thanks for being pleasant and decent in every interaction I've had with you. And yeah, that's a great response. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Very sweet.
I think as well, just to round it off slightly, I think it's been an extremely challenging year in a lot of different ways. I think as well, with hindsight, there's a lot more time we'd have loved personally to put into a lot of different areas, to be honest. But circumstances obviously didn't allow that. Sort of the fundamental issues that you brought up, Matty, I think they are fundamental issues, and I think this year we made a conscious effort to start with it from the roots, which we have done. The roots is in the policies and what's allowed and what's accepted, and that is the fundamental way to change the culture, I think. And we've done a lot of work in getting hate crime champions and got university funding for this. So I think we've consciously tried to do it from the bottom up. So yeah, no regrets in that. Definitely a lot of different areas I'm sure a lot of the other SABs would have liked to put time into, but yeah, I think it's been a funny year, but thank you for a very good question.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thanks, Katie. All the best, Katie.
So is there anybody else who would like to ask a question of the sabbatical officer team? If you would like to, please just put your hand up by pressing the going to the participant menu and pressing the hand up react. Matty, is that your hand still up, or is that just a new one? Matty, is that a new question?
No. This is just what I'm saying. That's just that was there before.
Okay, you just sorry. Cheers, thank you. Is there anybody else with a question at all that they would like to ask their sabbatical officer team? No. If that's the case, then I'm going to open the second section of questions and mandates. I should thank the sabbatical officer team for the answers that they gave. But if anybody has any questions and questions they would like to put to the liberation officers and the NUSU chairs, then please feel free to raise your hand. Sarah, 1 second, I think. Oh.
Yeah, sorry. I just lowered it quite quickly. It's not a question. It's just to echo what Katie said. Liberation officers have been amazing this year, and I've worked really closely with them. And they've, opened my eyes to things when I have been maybe narrow-minded or not able to step in certain people's shoes. So I really thank everyone that supported me and done a lot for their communities. So you'll all go on to amazing things, I'm sure. So a big thank you to everyone. And anyone that's nominated for the Student Rep Awards, good luck to you, because I know a couple of liberation officers are. So, and thank you, chairs, as well. That includes you as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Is there anybody else who has any questions for their liberation officers or NUSU chairs? If you have a question, just put your hand up. No. Okay, I'm just going to take this time to just go over the ground rules again, because I know a couple of people have joined the meeting mid-flow. So what we are using is, if you'd like to speak, if you would like to nominate yourself to speak, we're using the raise hand reaction, which is just, if you go into the participants menu, it should just be at the bottom there, if you need to speak. And the second reaction that we're using in the meeting is the clap reaction, which is the blue hands clapping. That's in the same place. I think it might be under the more tab. But it's that is for if you would like to submit a procedural amendment, or you have a if you have a point of information you'd like to raise. Also, the OMBIA code and password should be available from the IT support person in participants. If you message them directly, they should be able to give you the login details that you need, so that you can vote in the upcoming sections. I'm just conscious a couple of new people have joined. Okay, so that brings us to the end of questions and mandates to sabbatical and liberation officers and chairs. And it brings us quite quickly, quicker than usual, to the motions section of Student Council. And as usual, what we're going to do is we're going to start with business motions. I'll just briefly explain the types of motion. There are business motions, which are essentially motions which are deemed as passed. They're normally very small changes in administration things. They're deemed as passed unless there's an objection to them. So essentially what I'll do is I'll just ask that nobody objects. So we have a business motion, and then we have some constitutional motions. Now, constitutional motions require a 2/3 majority vote to pass, and they essentially alter NUSU's constitution. And I think we also have, I believe we have an ordinary motion as well, but an ordinary motion is just a vote that requires a simple majority to pass. It's just a regular motion that comes through council. We'll be voting through the OMBIA app, which you should have a login. If you're having any problems logging into that, please do make yourself known to IT
Did you
service.
just put it in the chat by any chance, just so everyone can access it?
I'm hoping someone will.
Please.
Karina's quite good at tech. She can do it.
Yeah, but not everyone has a voting place, do they?
I think everybody in this meeting has a voting place.
Oh, IT support have done it.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone who's here has a voting place.
Oh, that's easy then.
So
yeah, it looks like it's in the chat now.
It should be there if you need it. Thank you very much. Whoever did that. So we're going to move on to motions. So our first motion is a business motion, which, as I mentioned before, is simply a motion that requires your consent to pass, and it's motion 101, motion on the name change within housing policy, and it's proposed by Katie Smith. Katie, do you want to quickly explain? You've got 2 minutes to explain what this motion does.
I don't think I'll need the full 2 minutes, but thanks, Stephen. Yeah, it's basically just to change it over from the Welfare and Equality Officer to the President. It just fits more in line with what my remit is and the meetings that I go to. So yeah, it's just to make it part of the President's remit, basically. It's just change the Welfare and Equality Officer over to the President, but the next Welfare Officer can still support the President. It just won't be constitutionally part of their remit. Anyone has any questions on that?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions on business motion 101, then please just raise your hand or use the clapping emoji. Sorry, raise your hand. Use the raise your hand react. No. Okay, well then I think I'll just ask, does anybody have any objections to this motion? It's a relatively straight motion. It's on your screen now. If you have any issue with it, we've received no, they were circulated beforehand. We've received no objections to it so far. Does anybody have any problems now? Or spot any grammar mistakes? If you'd have, then just press the clap reaction. No, I'm going to take that as passed, and it's deemed as passed, and we'll move on to the next motion. So we're now moving on to constitutional motions. These require a 2/3 majority vote to pass. So the first one is motion 301 on the changes to ethics and environment representative role. And this has been proposed by Emily Colton. And I'll just unmute you so you can do your 2 minutes. 1 second, sorry. It's quite a long list to scroll through. There we go. Hello, you should be able to speak now. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So the changes that this motion would make is to make the role of the environment and ethics rep more aligned with that of a part-time officer. So it basically brings them closer into the students' union and gives them a bit more visibility and involvement. And it also kind of puts into place some of the things that I've done this year so that the next environment and ethics rep will be able to do those more easily. So links with the sustainability team, having a seat on the environment and sustainability committee of the university. Those are the main additions. I don't know if you've got the edits there that you can show. And I've also taken out some of the outdated provisions, like old committees that don't exist anymore, and organizing some week that doesn't exist anymore. Can you show the proposed changes, please?
Okay, I don't know if you can get those up on screen, or if you just, can you scroll down the motion?
They were circulated with the papers yesterday, but they're not included in the presentation.
Okay. Okay, well, but the main ones are the ones I've just said about, like, being in communication with the sustainability team often, and convening a student sustainability committee, which isn't set up yet, but hopefully will be by the end of this term. And that's more or less everything. Okay,
well, thank you very much. Now, I know you've got yourself down as a priority speaker on this. If you want to speak further on it, you may. Although, if you want, I can ask if anybody has any opposition to that first.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all I had to say.
Okay, so on motion 301, is there anybody who would like to speak against the motion who thinks we should not vote for motion 301? If you would like to, oh, sorry, actually, are there any questions to Emily first before we move on to that? Does anybody have any questions about the motion or about the role, etc., that they'd like to ask? If you do, then just please raise your hand using the raise your hand, react in the participants tab. No questions? Okay, then we'll move on to the debate. Does anybody want to speak against this motion at all? If you would like to speak against it, please, again, just raise your hand in the way that has been described by going into the participant tab and pressing the little blue hand icon, and we'll come to you. Anyone at all? No, I'm not going to dwell on this debate too long because I don't sense a great deal of opposition. I think we could probably just progress to the voting unless anybody else would like to speak in favour of this motion that has been brought. No, neither that either. Oh, Grace Dean, okay. Let me just unmute you 1 second.
Yeah, I think I've unmuted.
Oh, I muted you by accident because you were.
Oh.
sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak in favour of this motion because I think as ethics and environmental rep, it has been maybe a bit of a vague role, and I think this would give a lot more structure to the role and give whoever takes over after Emily next year access to a lot more resources and facilities like the other liberation officers can benefit from. So I think this will make it much easier for the ethics and environment rep to be more efficient at their role.
Thank you very much, Grace. And just one more question: would anybody else like to speak against this motion? Nope. Okay. Well, then we'll progress to voting. Could everyone check that they're still logged in to OnBeer and have their devices ready, please? If you have any problems whatsoever with being logged into OnBeer, your connection timing out, anything at all, please don't hesitate to contact IT support. They're just in the participants. You can find them and you can direct message them through Zoom. If you have, yeah, and we'll progress to voting now. Then, Kay, are we ready to? Okay, the vote should be on your app shortly. Sometimes there's a little lag. But if you agree, then you want to vote yes with the motion. If you disagree with the motion, then vote no.
I'm missing the countdown music, to be honest.
I'm missing.
I'm going to see if it can you hear that?
No.
Love it.
Is everyone, we can close the vote. We've had more than 30 seconds. Is everyone okay, Stephen?
I don't think there's been any problems. If there are, just give it a couple more seconds to make sure. 1 second. Oh, we're just checking on one person apparently. Okay, no, we're good. Yep, you should be okay to reveal the vote now then. Okay, so that's 83% majority to pass. So that's above the 2/3 majority threshold. And so motion 301, motion to change ethics and environmental representative role passes. Well done. That brings us on to constitutional motion 302, motion to clarify the role of the marginalised genders officer. And this has been proposed by, let's write down at the bottom. I'm very sorry. This has been proposed by, oh, I've gone past it. It's been proposed by Alicia, sorry.
Hello. Yes, it's just a really quick motion. So basically it's to clarify the job description of marginalised genders officer within the Constitution. So basically definitions are provided for the LGBT plus disability and students, student parent guardians and carers officer. So there should just be one there for marginalised genders officer as well, because the term marginalised gender is ambiguous and lacks clarity on what constitutes as a marginalised gender. So students who self-identify as marginalised genders experience exclusion and discrimination as a result of their gender identity. So if we put a definition in there, it'll actually help clarify the Constitution and make it more transparent and ensure that marginalised gender students are represented within the Students' Union. And this will improve inclusivity and mitigate any discrimination. And it also helps marginalised gender students feel respected, validated and represented. So marginalised genders are those who do not identify as cis male, and this is determined by oneself. So the change I want to make to section 10A of Annex I document is that students self-identifying as belonging to a marginalised gender, i.e. including but not limited to cis women, trans men, non-binary, intersex, agender, neutralist, gender fluid, gender queer, bigender, gender variant and two-spirit. And I think that providing the definitional, like I said before, improves transparency to the Constitution and ensures that any issues regarding discrimination and exclusion towards marginalised gender students is accurately represented within the Student Union. There we go.
Okay, thank you very much, Alicia. I'll just ask, does anybody have any questions on, excuse me, on motion 302 to ask to Alicia? If you would like to ask a question, please just raise your hand by pressing the reaction in the participants tab on the Zoom call. just ask that again, just in case. Does anybody have any questions on the motion at all? If you do, just raise your hand with the reaction. No? Okay. Thank you very much, Alicia. Very well spoken. So I, once again, don't sense a great amount of opposition, but I am going to ask, would anybody like to speak against this motion, against its passing? Would anybody like to speak against the motion whatsoever? If you would, please raise your hand, make yourself known now. No? Would anybody else like to speak for the motion? Anybody else in council like to speak for it? If you would like to speak for the motion, please. Oh, Tobias, straight away. Let me just unmute you 1 second. Oh, no, I've remuted you. There we are.
Hi.
Sorry, Tobias.
I'm the current LGBT officer, and I think this is really important because the T, especially in LGBT and the plus, when maybe you're queer and you identify as gender variant, is sometimes forgotten, and I think it's really good just to get some clarification so people know that they can run for this role. People have come to me when the Marginalised Genders Officer role was open in the by-election, and they were like, why aren't trans men included exclusive on the document as well? And had a couple of questions, so I think it's good that this has come to council, really.
Okay, thank you very much, Tobias. Would anybody else like to speak against the motion? I'm just going to ask this one more time. If you would, just put your hand up with the hand up react. No, I'm going to ask one final time. Would anybody else like to speak in favour of the motion? Anybody else speak in favour of the motion? If not, then we will progress to voting. Okay, right, we will progress to voting on motion 302. This is a constitutional motion, and so needs a 2/3 majority to pass. Please have your devices ready. If you have any problems in putting your vote in, please contact IT support. Please contact IT support. They are in the participants list. You should be able to send them a direct message on Zoom. Or please try to get our attention in any other way, and we will begin voting now. Once again, we missed the countdown music that we're so used to. Oh, there it is. So that's a 74% vote to pass. So that is so motion 302 passes with. Sorry, I've just lost my tab. Motion 302 to clarify the role of the Marginalised Gender Officer passes with 74%. And that allows us to move on to the next motion. So that's 303, motion on the introduction of student life exec. And this has been proposed by Katie Smith. So Katie, would you like to take it away?
Sorry, yeah, it's another one from me. Yeah, it's just one aspect of it is to just change hall and community exec to student life exec. I think, as we all know, students' role in the community is a lot bigger than just hall and the community. It's, you know, how they're living their lives here and different links. And especially with the passing of Emily's motion, I think we want to better incorporate the climate and the environment and that emergency into it as well. So yeah, I think it'll make it more streamlined. And yeah, hopefully it will have less reps in it to try and make it more focused, but still get that representation from across the city and across the accommodations on campus as well. So yeah, I think it makes sense and would definitely help me with my work as well. But yeah, if there's any questions about any of it.
Does anybody have any questions to ask Katie about them?
And then I suppose, sorry, another aspect of it would be that there'd be campaigns that we could do as a full sort of exec that can incorporate those in Jesmond and then those in accommodations and stuff with the use of the environment officer as well, rep, sorry. But yeah, sorry, any questions?
No, okay, well, oh, sorry, I think we've got a bit of an echo coming through. Thanks. So we'll go straight to, does anybody want to speak against this motion? No, okay, would anybody else like to speak in favour of the motion? Joe Gubbins, I think you can unmute yourself, I'm not sure.
I think it makes a lot of sense just updating some quite outdated things, some things that Katie's experienced this year as well would make sense just to update it, make it nice and streamlined, help tie in those new bits that we want to get involved in it, and yeah, bit of a no-brainer for me.
Would anybody like to speak against the motion?
I think someone else has raised their hands to speak.
Yeah, I think he wants to speak for it. I was just going to, and then I'll come to him. No, okay, Matty, just unmute you.
Thanks
Matty.
very much, Stephen. I think that's a great measure to bring forward, Katie, and backing up Joe's points as well, that, you know, some more support in terms of, well, local students and those living in halls across the area. I think as well that rule, a great potential of the rule would be incorporating more underdeveloped and those areas in poverty and neglect within the city. So as I remember Day speaking to Katie when she was first running for the role, I said, remember, you know, Newcastle isn't just Jesmond and Heaton and these areas. And I think if this can improve kind of extending the privilege of Newcastle University and the funds that this area has, you know, in a business sense, they're missing out on so much more income and success stories. We shouldn't just push for tokenized local students. We should actually appeal to the wider varieties Newcastle, such as the West End, such as West Denton. Again, Jesmond, Heaton, it's a place of a lot of privilege usually, and the university needs to branch away from just privileging those who are, you know, who have various social contacts. So to move to actual change, direct change, rather than tokenization is huge. So I think this could help that. So I commend Katie for the motion. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much, Matty. I'll just ask one more time. Would anybody else like to speak against this motion? If you do, just raise your hand in the way that you described in the participants tab. No, okay, well then I think once again we will progress onto the voting section of the motion. Kay, are we ready to go with the voting? Yeah. Okay, so please have your devices ready. Please make sure you're still logged in. Once again, if you have any problems whatsoever, just contact the IT support role on the participants list. Thank you very much for the music, Katie. The vote should be on your device screen now.
Sound quality is not very good in this one, Smithers.
I'll try better next time, Joe.
Thanks, mate.
Okay, so that's 80% majority, and so that passes. Well done. So that's motion 303 on the introduction of a student life exec passes with a supermajority. Okay, and that brings us on to, sorry, 1 second, just scrolling through. That brings us to the end of our constitutional motions section, and to our ordinary motions. And we have just one ordinary motion. Oh no, sorry, we have two ordinary motions. Motion 401 on the update of to the update to NUSU inclusivity policy. This motion was proposed by Sarah. And so, Sarah, if you could unmute yourself. I don't know if you can actually. Yes, you can.
So kind of building on what me and Katie were speaking about earlier, we've been working on reviewing policies, and that's not just for the university, because obviously NUSU is independent, so it operates on its own policies. So we have an inclusivity policy, which basically is around equality, diversity issues, and there was some information that was outdated. So I've included some new definitions, including what hate crime means and what bullying is, as well as discrimination. It's all on there, but just to summarize. And I've also included how to report a breach of the policy. So if you are, for example, a victim of hate crime or a victim of bullying or whatever, you can, how to report that and where to seek support. So the whole policy is about empowering students to know where they can go for support, whether that's internally at the union, whether that's with the university, or whether that's externally with different charities. So I think it's a lot clearer and a lot more structured. And I've also put in there in the resolves that it needs to be reviewed at least on a 3-year basis, because, you know, the subject of inclusivity and EDI are ever changing. So yeah, 5 questions, but the actual policy should have been sent round in the documents that Angela sent. So, but feel free to ask me any questions. You're muted, Stephen.
So I am. Would anybody like to ask Sarah any questions about this motion? If you would like to ask a question, please just put your hand up with the react. No? Okay. Does anybody have anything to say against this motion? If you would like to speak against this motion, please just put your hand up in the participants menu. You'll find the ability to put your hand up with a little blue hand. No? Would anybody further like to speak in favour of this motion? Just ask them again. Oh, yep, Charlotte, 1 second. Let me just unmute you. There we go.
Thanks. Yeah, not much to say. I just think it's a really good idea to kind of keep the policies updated. I think Sarah's done a really good job of including really important definitions that will be useful for, I mean, all of us who work at NUSU, but also students to kind of know what happens, and all the reporting procedure information is really useful as well. So it's just a motion that makes sense, and I think it's good that it's included kind of the ability to refresh it when needed and to keep it up to date. So yeah, I don't see any reason why this shouldn't go forward, really.
Fantastic. So would anybody else like to speak against the motion? Is there anybody who would like to put their hand up to speak against the motion? I think there was somebody else before for the motion, but 1 second. Just ask that one more time. Does anybody want to speak against the motion? If you want to do that, just put your hand up using the reaction. No? Okay. Does anybody want to speak for the motion? Eleanor, you might have had your hand up earlier. I don't know if you want to speak still. No? Okay, one last call. Does anybody want to speak in favour of...
Hi, Eleanor.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, oh, sorry, there's just some connection issues going on. So, okay, never mind. If nobody else would like to speak for or against the motion, then once again, I think we're okay to progress onto the voting section. Oh, sorry. Alex.
There was never a call for questions. Because I do have a slight question when it comes to the inclusivity policy, two-parter. The first part of the question is a question on when it comes to reporting the incident. I understand that it's anonymous for, say, the person who's reporting the incident, but for the person who's being accused, is it also anonymous? Or would it be a case of, let's say, if someone's accused, whether it's false or not, they're reported in the courier?
It depends. So if it depends on how you report. So you can report a case anonymously, but in any circumstance, in any place, because it's anonymous, it won't be investigated unless you unanonymize yourself. And then if it went to disciplinary, you'd be informed that you had, as a responder, as if you were getting the allegation against you, you would then be informed that an allegation would have been put against you, and you would be told who the allegation was made by and what the allegation was. But that's only if it went to investigation and the reporter wanted it to go that far. That would be the same in the union, the university. That's just quite a normal part of the procedure. So yeah, those things, if the reporter were happy to put their name out and were happy for it to go to investigation, then both the responder and report would be aware of the details.
Okay, so then my last question then is, for the person who's being accused of, would it be anonymous on both sides?
Sorry, what do you mean?
So if someone's accused of a hate crime, for example, right?
Yeah.
Would the standard procedure be the university investigates and it's all kept anonymous, or would it be the person who's accused would be more or less outed in a sense or publicized?
No. So everything's confidential. So it depends on. So for example, if it's investigated, so if you report something and you want the union to address it, then the union would be the only place that it would know. It wouldn't be shared with the university unless in certain circumstances the union think it's necessary, and then the people would be consulted on that. And it wouldn't be outed publicly. I mean, when cases are outed publicly, it's usually when there's some sort of social media presence on that case, or someone, a student or someone else puts that on social media. But it would never be that NUSU or another body like a charity or the university would put that out there for public knowledge in terms of the actual investigation. It's all confidential. So yeah, and they all operate independently. So NUSU is an independent body. So any investigation that takes place is kept within NUSU and is not shared with the university unless necessary. And that would be discussed with the students involved first. So
okay.
I hope that's clear.
And any racial incidences, would they be in terms of on the campus, or could a racial incident be if somebody says something racist on their Facebook timeline, for example, like that?
Yeah, everything would be as long as someone reports it, it'd be investigated. Obviously, if it's not appropriate for NUSU to deal with, because when it comes to NUSU things, it's if it happens with the NUSU property, NUSU events, so like society or club related events, or like Go Volunteer and stuff like that. That's when it would be dealt with on a NUSU level. But you know, the SAC can always provide advice on that. Or when it's university, they would deal with it. But obviously, if it's a student on student case, like the university would look at it, whether it's on the internet, whether it's in person, these things are all investigated to the same level. So it doesn't matter what platform it's on.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, so are there any further questions or any further points for or against this motion 401? No. If that's the case, then we will we'll progress onto the voting section. Kay, are we ready to vote? Okay, please have your devices ready. Once again, please check that you haven't timed out. If you have any problems, just you know the drill. Just contact the IT support. That was loud. And motion, one second. A motion 401 passes with a huge majority. And that brings us to the end of motion 401 and onto our next ordinary motion, which is motion 402, which is on an adjustment of tuition fees in the next academic year due to COVID-19. And this has been proposed by Husnain Shahid. And so I'll just invite you to talk now. 1 second where I find you. Oh, there you are. You're unmuted. Please, you've got 2 minutes to make your case for the bill.
So the immediate consequence of this pandemic is the economy of countries. And then it will be affecting incoming international students to the Newcastle University. What I'm proposing to the university is that the university have already provided maximum supported facilities to international students. And most of the students have concern with last year recap and academic strikes twice a year. If the university have some portion of remote teaching tuition fee adjusted in the next academic year, or maybe increase scholarships or bursary opportunities, or maybe reduce the international students fee. This will be very supportive to all incoming international students and returning international students. And that's what I have to propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions to ask regarding the bill? Alex Cantave, 1 second. Oh, wait, is that I assume that's Alex Cantave. I've only got the first name.
Yep. So I want to ask, is it possible to add an amendment to this bill where the third step would not just be to reduce international student tuition fees for next year, but also get at the very least, a partial refund? Because I think, considering, especially as international students, we pay twice, 3 times that of British students. We pay basically £19,000 to or £19,000 to their 9,000. So is it possible if we can get at least a third of the tuition back, considering at least for most international students have been gone since March before their countries went on lockdown. I myself had to leave on March 20th because my country said all Americans need to come back home. Yet I'm still, technically speaking, paying for tuition that should have lasted me all the way until June.
Hussein, would you accept a procedural amendment to this motion that would essentially ask for that refund?
Yes, I would definitely want it, because that's for sure. And for third year and postgraduate students who are not returning back, they should be getting a portion of refund back. Because for an international student, it's more likely the experience to be in a university, to be in a society. But sitting home and studying is not the same experience, and it's not the same thing. So definitely, I do support this.
So, Alex, if you want to word that in a similar way to the other student union council resolves that you can see on the screen share in front of you, and I think you want to send it to Kay. I think you can do it through an internal message.
Would I send it to Angela in an internal message?
If you could send it to Kay.
Okay, sorry.
The name is NCAMSUP, because you're using
NCAMSUP, yep.
Yeah.
So let me type it in right now. Yes, I believe it's been sent to NCAM support.
Have you received that?
It'll just take me a minute, Stephen, because it won't copy and paste over.
No problem. Okay, so what's happening now is we're just amending the motion. I gather that we're just adding a third point to Student Union Council resolves as a result of Alex's intervention, which is essentially just modifying the motion to not just reduce impact into the future, but also to consider the impact that it's had for the past academic term. And I think to also, I gather that it was also to lobby for refund, etc.
Yeah, lobby for refunds, at least a third of refunds as well.
Yeah, and that's just being added to the motion now for your consideration. Once that's done, what we'll do is we'll pop that back up on the screen share that you can see in front of you, and it'll just be a third point under the heading Student Council Resolves. While that's being done, I don't know if anyone knows any jokes. Usually we'd all go and get pizza at this point, but
get Chris to play his bagpipes.
Oh God, Chris could play his bagpipes, but realistically,
wacky moment, Chris. Play your bagpipes.
No, please don't.
Please do.
At least you've got that to look forward to next year. Unfortunately, I never took up bagpipes this year, so as a chair, I can't really entertain you with them. I am slightly worried that he is now looking for his bagpipes under his desk, but should be nearly there now.
Can you see that?
Yep, I can see that. I think everyone can see the third point that has now been added to Student Union Council Resolves at the bottom there. Just to be clear, that is now the new motion that we are debating. And with that in mind, I would just like to ask, is there anybody else who would like to speak? Oh, sorry, are there any further questions? Ali Zahad, let me just unmute you. Sorry, I've got to find you. There you are.
So I would like to speak in the favor of the motion, which is like, due to COVID-19, the world is leading towards the, like, all over the world, we are leading towards third Great Depression, and the economies of all economies around the world are gonna get affected, and it will have trickle-down effect on international students. Like, UK will support its local students, but our governments are not going to support us. So we need the support from we need the university to ensure the support for us, that we get like a minimal refund, or as said before, adjustment in the tuition fee, which would like ensure that university is not just morally but financially supporting the international students. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm next just going to come to Rabs, as you had your hand up next. Let me just unmute you. Sorry about this, it's very clunky. There you are, Rabs.
This is more of a question, but I know it says reduce the international student fees, increase scholarships and bursary opportunities for next year, but I don't know how to explain it, but shouldn't like 2 and 3 be the same points, as in like our petition? I'm just thinking, like, if we return a third of the international students' tuition, should that not cover the whole sort of, do we need to reduce their fees for the next year if we've already returned their fees? You get me?
Just so you're asking if we're considering a refund, then it should also be, then the motion should also be lobbying for a reduction in fees. Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm saying that if we have refunded the fees, we don't really need a reduction. Oh,
I think it's clarification, because if Alex, sorry, what you're asking is to refund this year's, like right now, third term, or are you asking for
Yes.
next year's to be refunded? Because
Oh,
then,
no, I'm so sorry.
Because if you're asking for, I think it needs clarification on that last bit to say to petition the university to refund this academic year's third of international student tuition, because otherwise you wouldn't be doing reducing next year's and refunding. I think that's what perhaps is asking. Am I right?
I guess what my perspective is when it comes to the refund, it would at a maximum be a third. I'd be fine with even less than that.
Of this year's,
but
though,
of this year's tuition that has been already been given to the university. But for the reduction of fees for next year, I actually do agree with that thought process, because the UK and the United States might make great strides and like recover, but other states might not be able to recover economically as well, meaning that there are going to be some families that are going to have less money to go around in a sense.
So, Kay, would you put to petition university to refund a third of international student tuition of the academic year?
Yeah, then to clarify, that would be better to clarify.
Adding on to the point.
Sorry, can I just say that's up to the chair, whether or not you would accept it as a procedural motion.
Well, I think that the point 3, I think the whole point of it was in reference to, and now Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you said you wanted a refund of a third of the international student tuition, you were referring to a third of the year that's just happened, the academic year just passed, or that are still in, if you like. So I think that I didn't think that wasn't, obviously I didn't see it before it got added to the thing, but I assumed that's what it meant. I assume. So point 3 was always to mean petition the university to refund 1/3 of the international student tuition for academic year 1920, 2019 to 2020, you know what I mean? Not to refund them a third and reduce it, like Rab said.
It's just clarifying. It's just clarifying that if we do refund it, will we also be reducing for next year?
Well, I think that just reading these resolves, 1 and 2 are, yes, you will be asking for an increase in scholarships and bursaries and a decrease in tuition fees for international students. And then point 3 is a third point that asks for the retroactive refunding of what's already happened and what's already been paid. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I was just asking for clarification. Yeah.
Yes, so I think if it needs anything, it just needs an addition onto the end of point 3, which is just clarifying it means in academic year 2019 to 2020. Am I right in saying that would be the clarification that would?
That would be the clarification. But I've also added a second clarification to refund a third or less, because if the university isn't able to fund a third, but maybe at least 10% of our tuition, well, any amount's a good amount in a sense.
Okay. Well, I think that, yes. Sorry, I when I read it, I read it as that anyway. But I see, yes, it does need that clarification. Thank you.
I want to clarify as well. Reduction of tuition fee is for incoming international students, whereas refund is for returning international students. So that's 2 different clarifications, which needs to be everyone. And it's not like asking for everything, asking for a reduction, for a refund, and an increase in scholarships. The increase in scholarships and reduction is for reduction, and reduction is for returning as well as incoming international students. And the refund is only for returning international students.
Okay. Kay and Angela, have you received those just clarifications on point 3 from Alex? That Rabs was. Yeah. Okay. If they could just get added to the slide, that would just clear that up. Thanks a lot. I'm just going to go to some of the other people that have been waiting with their hands up. Elizabeth Mead, 1 second, coming to you. Oh, Elizabeth, sorry, you had a question or a point?
I'd like to speak in support of the motion. I just would say I definitely think this is a really good idea, because as an international student myself who received a scholarship earlier this year, it was really helpful to my family because it's very stressful for students to have to make a transition to a different country, and having the school pay for part of it takes a bit of that worry off of your shoulders. And I would also say that this is probably the least the university could do, given that everything had to change so dramatically and so quickly that I think it was particularly refunding part of this year would really make up for some of the difficulties that were caused, and students could put that towards things like travel, simply because it costs so much to get here for students who live far away.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm just going to go to the next person, which was Christopher Winter. I'm just going to unmute you.
Hello. I just had a question, actually. I still pay university fees as well. Why are UK students not covered by this bill? That's all the question is.
Hussein, are you still muted? No, Hussein, would you like to?
Yes. So basically, international tuition, international student pays maybe twice or more than that of the UK student. And then the economy of all international students, I would say UK has a good economy relatively to the rest of the world. And then most of the international students are from low economic countries. So speaking of, I would say if the university does something for UK students, then it has to do, all the other universities have to do as well. It's like the same lesser group university, and they do have to follow some of the guidelines given by the government and the universities. So that's why I want to make like the minimum, so that it's not a burden on university, and the university itself is not I would say questionable or somewhat like you get the point.
I would like to add that UK and EU students normally get student loan from the government, or like their government support them, but no international students get support from our governments or any of us. So we would like to have reduction in a fee at least for next year, because a lot of students might not be able to pay the same amount of the fee or the increased amount of the fee.
I hope that answers your question, Chris. I'm just going to move now on to Matty, just because you've had your hand up for a fair while. Sorry, just trying to unmute you now. Matty.
Yeah, thanks very much, Stephen. I think that's an absolutely fantastic motion. I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. A lot of respect for bringing it forward, and for Ali for speaking so well as well and responding to Christopher Winter's. Again, I think it's ludicrous to try to pit international students against. And you'll have a right to reply, Christopher. In terms of the university and its policy for international students, I frankly believe the university does not take into account the rich cultural influence, the financial influence, and everything else that international students bring to Newcastle as a whole. And in fact, this motion should be, it could go further, a lot further. In terms of suggestions, I think, Stand Up to Racism Society could support this a lot in the organisation. I think, that's a question as well. Would people be comfortable with them getting on board? Because the university have been discriminatory almost at times with international students. For example, I believe the tracking system of students where they have to scan their smart cards and then they get reported to the Home Office for immigration issues is frankly discriminatory. And I think it's something that should be looked into highly at high levels of people in the Students' Union who work there, the paid staff, and up to many people in the university itself. In terms of, I've got a question. I was going to bring this up afterwards, to be fair, but I'd just like to express my personal concern for Christopher Winter to be chair of council with his frankly, he's frankly, I know, but I'm bringing that up for future reference. He's frankly discriminatory attitude previously, standing up against Stand Up to Racism Society in council.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you off there, because that really isn't about the motion at all, or in order. I'm afraid I'm going to have to rule that out of order. Okay, so I'm now going to go to the next person with their hand up, which was Dorothy Shearer, incoming president. 1 second, I'm just trying to find you on my list. Oh, fantastic, thank you.
I don't have faith in my internet connection, so I'm going to try and make this quick. I just wanted to know how you guys wanted to circumvent the fact that the university's minister has kind of come out and said that universities shouldn't really be offering any refunds, or like don't have to offer any refunds as long as they're providing distance learning. And I obviously know it's not what everyone wants, but obviously that is kind of like the government position. So I wanted to know how you would suggest kind of like getting over that.
Husnain, if you'd like to.
Yes, that's actually what I acknowledge of this fact, and I have read this policy. That's the reason I'm going for a reduction in the next year, which will be beneficial for all international students, and increase scholarships and bursaries. I mean, there's always a door open. There's always any opening to a solution if you have to find a solution. So if the university, if the ministers have advised to not for refund, then we can have a reduction in the next academic year. And we can also have increased opportunities, because right now, a lot of students wanted to do research and wanted the grant for research, but due to this COVID-19, they are not being, I would say, facilitated or granted a research fund. So that's one of the things which a lot of international students are aiming for. They're like paying a tremendous amount of tuition fee and looking forward for it. And most of the students are not from economic countries, and the governments of their students are not supporting them. So I don't want any of the international student to be left without a degree or an education just because of a consequence of COVID-19.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid I'm just going to, because I'm very conscious of time and the motion, I'm just going to lower everyone's hands for a second, and I'm just going to ask, does anybody want to speak against this motion, or actually, no, sorry, does anybody have any further questions on the motion, or questions pertaining to amendments of the motion? If anybody does, could they please do the clap hands emoji? One second. Yes, Alex Canto.
I do agree with what Chris says, with the idea that it shouldn't just be international students benefiting, to be honest, because the question I have, sorry, it is a question, it does lead to a question, and the question I have is that can I restate the amendment to remove international student and just say student tuition, or no at all?
Just a point from the chair, that would be a big change to the motion, and that would be a in my opinion. And
I understand.
The question of domestic students refunds and things, I think that's a separate issue from the international student refunds, for the reasons that have been stated in the motion, and by the people that have and by Husnain who's brought it.
True.
And so I wouldn't accept that further amendment. Also, I would just say on the point, I think if people have the appetite to bring a motion to council regarding domestic students' fees and domestic student refunds and the differences between them, then they are welcome to, and they're invited to bring that separate motion. But this is not that motion. This is a motion on international students, as it was framed. And we did ask if anybody had any objections to it or amendments for it before council began, and we received none. But yes, so I'm just going to thank you very much for your question, Alex. But I'm just going to ask again: does anybody have actually any further amendments? Sorry, not amendments. Anybody have any further points on this motion for the motion? Ali, seeing as I think you're the seconder, I'll take you, and then I'll take one more point if there's anyone to speak against, and then we'll progress to voting because I am conscious of time and we do have several other motions to get through this evening. Sorry, Ali, I think you're muted at the moment, are you?
So I would like to say that the motion is in the favor of university because this is the first university which is promoting this motion, and if it passes, it could lead the way towards other universities taking the action on the same motion, and they can bring up other students can bring the same motion in their own universities, and Newcastle University can lead the change in this scenario.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody like to speak? Sorry, I'm just going to lower all hands, and if anybody wants to speak against the motion, could you please raise your hand now? Anybody would like to speak against this motion? No? Okay, I'm going to take one more for 4, and then we are going to progress to voting, I'm afraid. One more for 4. Emily, I'm going to come to you. Sorry about that. It was just who's quickest on the draw on my screen. Sorry, and there's a lot of opinions on this. Oh, hang on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, I don't think this should be taken to mean that this situation has not affected UK students potentially equally. What I do think this motion reflects is that the university's business model depends very heavily on international students, and this is a time when I think the university does need to take that into account and take care of its own international students, on which it depends so heavily.
Right, thank you very much. So I think that we're going to progress to voting now. I'm very sorry, there's just so many opinions on this one, but I think that broadly, it's, I'm not sensing much actual opposition in the against the motion itself. So we're going to move to voting now. Kate, is everything yet? Kate says everything's ready. So if everybody's still logged into OnBeer, could you please check that you are? If you've got any problems, please could you contact IT Sport? I know it's been a little while since the last vote, so double check that you're still signed in, you haven't timed out or anything. And please. Okay, and this required a simple majority, and it's gained a 58% positive vote, and so the motion carries. That motion is deemed passed by this council. I'm sorry, we got a little bit out of sorts there. This this brings us on to the end of motion 402 and brings us to motion 403, motion to support pledge to support end rough sleeping in Newcastle. And this has been brought by Sarah, I believe. Yes, it has.
Oh, hello. Sorry, I was just having a chat. Yeah, so basically, sorry for bringing loads of motions because my last one, and I wanted to annoy you all before I left. No, I'm joking. So basically, this is basically Street Zero is a charity that is pledging to end rough sleeping in Newcastle in 2022, and loads of charities and businesses have signed this pledge, so it doesn't actually require any financial obligation at this stage. It's just signing saying that we support the idea of ending rough sleeping by 2022. And basically, I think it aligns with a lot of our values as an organisation, and we've supported different charities this year as NUSU, including the People's Kitchen. And I know that Rag Society have chosen to support Street Zero this year in their when they did their Rag Week. So Yeah, I just think it's important that we as a council support this. But to go forward, I guess the new SABs, it would just be to identify opportunities in partnership with Street Zero, e.g. in fundraising, in elections fundraising and stuff like that, and promoting volunteering opportunities. That's it.
Does anybody have any questions for Sarah on motion 403? If you do, just put your hand up using the hand up react.
Sorry, I forgot the other point as well. To mandate the Welfare Quality Officer, President and Ethics Environment Rep to lobby the university to also sign this pledge.
Oh.
Sorry, my boyfriend was just playing PlayStation, so that went off in the background. Yeah, so just to mandate the university to also sign this pledge like we are doing as well, because Northumbria University have also signed it. So.
Okay, I'm going to take just two on either side, one on either side of this even, as I think it's a fairly uncontentious one. Christopher Winter, you're first off the bat. Would you like to speak, would you like to speak for the motion? Raise your hand, keep your hand up if you want to speak for the motion. Loads of people. I'll go to you first, Chris, just because you had your hand up first. There we go.
Hi again. I just think this is a really good motion. I think it makes a lot of sense. Newcastle, the local council, does quite a lot for the homeless, and I think it's good that we should be, really pledging our support as a university behind it. I know that obviously I can't speak on behalf of all the students of Faith on campus, but as their officer, I would say that charity and helping those in need is a big part of all of our faiths and all of our lives, and I really think this is something that they could certainly all get behind. I know that some of the faith societies will do, things with the homeless to try and raise money for them. So that's always good to see. And I'm really, really glad this motion is being proposed, and I really hope it passes. Okay, thank you.
Chris, would anybody? Sorry, if I'm just going to lower all your hands, and you can raise them again. I'm sorry, I know it's a bit of a faff, but would anybody like to speak against the motion? Please raise your hand. If you'd like to speak against the motion, please just raise your hand through the same procedure. No, I didn't think so. Would anybody else like to speak in favour? Who was quickest off that? Yes, there we are. Tobias, I'm afraid you just pipped everybody else to the post there. You should be able to speak now. Oh, no.
There you go.
Oh, cool. Sorry, I think there's multiple people trying to unmute you. There you are.
Right.
Sorry, Tobias.
That's right. No, yeah, I think this is a really good motion. I think it's really important to stand aside stuff like this. In the Proud to Be campaign, I did a collaboration with Albert Kennedy Trust. I think it's also important just to acknowledge that marginalised communities can be really impacted by homelessness. Yeah, so I fully support this motion.
That's it. Would anybody else like to speak on the motion in general, just because I don't think there's any against? I'll take one more. No more. No one else to speak on the motion. Rabs, sorry, I saw you put your hand up so many times. I just need unmute. There you are. Oh, or not. Sorry, Rabs, there you are.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, I think this is a really good motion as well. I think a lot of, I know some other unis have done stuff for the homelessness within their cities, like Glasgow University, I know, did a partnership with a charity that, however, they promoted an event called Rough Sleeping, and how much money they raised, they donate, the university themselves donated £50 to the charity. So it is something that other universities are doing as well. So I just think it's a really good thing that Newcastle is getting behind it as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that, we are going to move on to the voting section. So we're going to progress the voting on motion 404. Motion 403, the pledge to support end rough sleeping in Newcastle. Kay, are we ready to vote? Yep. So if you have your devices ready, please check you're still logged in. Once again, you know the drill. If you have any problems, contact tech support in the participants menu, and we will begin voting now. Or may have already begun voting. And that's a huge majority, so motion 403 passes, and that brings us to our next motion of the evening, which is motion 404, motion on sexual misconduct policy. And once again, this is proposed by Sarah. So Sarah, if you want to take it away quickly.
I'm a massive attention seeker, hi. So this one is really important. Basically, looking through all the mad policies of council, we've adopted loads of sexual misconduct policies. It's all over the place. We originally had NUS's policy, which wasn't a policy. It was more guidance on how to sort of embed zero tolerance into your union. And obviously we're disaffiliated from NUS now, so we can't really adopt that policy. Then we had a fairly basic policy being submitted as a sort of add-on, I don't really know how, maybe appendix or something to I don't really know the technical terms, so excuse me, to a motion that was submitted in 2013, which didn't really outline definitions. It didn't really outline what the reporting procedure was for sexual misconduct. So I've created a new policy completely, worked really hard on it, and it has, a bit like the inclusivity policy, it has all the definitions of sexual misconduct, sexual violence, sexual assault, stalking. It's all in there. And then we've got how to report via the union, how to report via the university, how to report externally, you know, how we can reflect being a zero tolerance. So how do we change culture within the union, and how we train staff and student groups. So yeah, it's all in there, but please fire some questions if you have any concerns.
Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, and just to add, just the same as the other policy that I submitted, it's to be reviewed every 3 years, if not necessary to be reviewed before then. So yeah.
Does anybody have any questions on motion 404 to Sarah? If you have a question, just raise your hand. Oh, Rabs, see you. I'm just unmuting you now.
This might be a dumb question, but will like societies and everyone, like how will this just be on like the SU website, the policy, or like how will it be accessible to everyone? Because I know like it'd be really important for everyone to actually be educated on.
I think, yeah, so it'll be on the, because at the moment the policy that's online is the NUS one, so it would be sort of be accessible on the documents page. I think societies and clubs will, basically we're going to come up with some guidance this year, because for societies and clubs, because usually I train in sort of consent, and I think that's quite difficult for a welfare and quality officer who comes into the role quite quickly. So we're going to provide guidance for the incoming welfare quality officer and activities and AE officer on how to conduct different training for societies, but also with support from the activities team as well, because they do a lot of the training. So basically it's going to be a lot more official and a lot more easier to navigate for students who are basically maybe taking disclosures of sexual violence, and the same with that with hate crime as well. So I mean, it's something that obviously the SABs next year, it's difficult to train everyone on a policy, but I think hopefully the policy that I have is really clear for students and accessible, so that students can understand it themselves if they are a responder or a reporter, or just interested in how that policy functions. But yeah, we will be making sure that the training for different student groups is more structured and more accessible and clearer for students who are taking disclosures, if that makes sense. Sorry, that was a bit of a long-winded answer.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Can I also just add to that, Stephen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to say that we have got our inclusive voices interns working as well within NUSU, and if this motion is to pass, then we can 100% look at that as well. What the interns are doing is looking at sort of putting together some guidance now, and even sort of not a policy like this, but a clear guidance on what society should be doing. So if this motion is to pass, we can of course add that in as sort of a signposting thing. But yeah, just to reiterate what Sarah said, this is not going to stop here. We're going to make sure it is actually put in practice as well. I think it's a brilliant motion, and it just fixes a lot of things. So yeah, very much for.
Does anybody else have any further questions on the motion? No? Okay, I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to take two either side of this one. So I'm just going to ask, is there anybody who would like to speak against the motion? Could you please raise your hand? No? Would anybody like to speak for the motion? Sorry, I know I'm messing you around a little bit. Charlotte, coming to you.
Thanks. You scare me there when I thought I was speaking against. Definitely not. Yeah, I think this is a really great motion. It's really important, and I think Sarah's done an excellent job of the definitions. I contacted her asking her to make an amendment and make sure the language was like inclusive, because anyone could be affected by sexual harassment, and she did it, and it was really great. I'm also one of the interns that Eleanor was talking about, and I think this would be so helpful for our document that we're making for policies for societies. So it makes a lot of sense, and there's no point to be using an NUS policy when we're not affiliated and we haven't been for years. So yeah, I don't really see a reason why this shouldn't go through.
Thank you very much. Would anybody like to speak against the policy? And we'll have one more. Would anybody like to speak for the policy? Chris Winter.
Hi again. Yeah, I just think this one's really open and shut. It seems very reasonable. You know, people who are accused or commit sexual assault are the scum of the earth, simple as. And at the end of the day, there should be an absolutely no tolerance policy on what horrible bastards like that, apologies for swearing, what horrible people like that do, simple as. Now, at the end of the day, you know, we all may know someone who is a victim of sexual assault. Heck, we may all even know someone who committed a sexual assault, and those people tend to be horrible. So yeah, no, I totally stand in favor of this motion. I think it's an excellent motion, and yeah, I really hope it passes. You know, as a Christian and as, you know, people of all and no faiths, I really think we should stand in solidarity with this motion, and you know, really like strongly discourage the sexualization of people on campus, and discourage scum. Like scum, I cannot get over how like serious.
Okay.
Really discourage these horrible people from committing such horrendous acts. Thank you.
Okay, and I think that's all points on either side exhausted, and we're going to progress once again to voting on, this time on motion 404, motion on sexual misconduct policy. Kay, are we ready to vote? Okay, so please have your devices ready. You should still be logged into OneBeer. If you've got any problems, once again, I'm sorry to keep repeating myself, just contact the IT support in the participants thing. You can just direct message them from there. It's just a simple majority to pass this one. Yes if you're in favour, no if you're not. And it's a unanimous pass. Well done. Thank you very much. Well done, Sarah. So that's a yes. So motion 404 carries and is passed with flying colours. And that brings us to the end of the motions document for this council, with every motion passing, I believe. So we need to go mad. And that brings us on to the final section of our order paper today, which is the student notices section. I'm afraid I'm going to have to keep this brief because we've overrun, well, quite, but I'm just a bit conscious of time. That, and I assume there'll be quite a lot of notices, but I just want to keep it to a select few. Does anybody have any notices? Please raise your hand. Alicia, I'm going to come to you first, and Matty. Sorry, 1 second. There we are.
Hello, it's just to basically say that we're relaunching the Black and Blue campaign to support all students who are being affected by domestic abuse at this time, who are returning to unsafe homes. So we're launching a massive online campaign, so just keep an eye out on the socials. That's it.
Where can they find that? Is that just on Facebook?
Yeah, it's the COVID community page. Yeah, I think it's the NUSU one, and also the Black and Blue website as well, on the Student Union website.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Matty, 1 moment. Matty.
Is that all? Oh, I'm actually unmuted. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alicia. That was a really great point. I think you've done some great stuff this year, so fair play to you. In terms of what I'm working on, I've built Come Together NE, which is a new organisation that's promoting artists across the North East at this time of financial uncertainty, mental health problems, and economically. This weekend we have a digital festival. The first one we hosted raised over £2 grand for the NHS. So this weekend it's Come Together NE, #2 for our independent local venues. So I'd appreciate everybody in the university to get amongst it, and keep an eye out, because it's going to, it's across the North East, but it'll be in university as well. So it's a good virus. It's a good virus, and I hope everybody is safe and well, and respect to you all. Love and strength. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matty. I'm just going to take those with their hands currently up. So let me come to you, Sarah, next. Sorry, one second. Oh, Sarah, I think you can unmute yourself.
Just a quick one. I'm running a campaign at the moment, a mental health campaign, running loads of free activities for students. There's been yoga, there's comedy sketches, there's going to be a jazz jam with Jazz Society, A Cappella Society sing off next week. We've got strength and conditioning classes. There's so much stuff. So please do all that, because we're putting some money behind it and we're tapping into local stuff in the community. So if you just Facebook NUSU pause, you'll find all the events for free. So please use it. It's going on until exams finish.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And finally, Joe, I don't know, can you,
Yeah, just want to say thanks to Stephen for all the hard work he's put in chairing these over the years. It's the last one of the year. Also to everyone that's got involved. I think we've had some great debates this year, great opinions shared, and we've made some good progress through council. I think we've all enjoyed it, and it's opened our eyes a lot. And to say good luck to the incoming SABS Liberation Officers and Chairs for next year. Woo! Who knows what it's going to be like, but I'm sure you'll do a cracking job.
Thank you, Stephen.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, and that brings our final council of the year to an end. I'm afraid there is no raffle for the last one, which is
oh, what?
Come on now.
No raffle, no pizza. It's all.
Stephen, we do have the quiz though.
There is a quiz going on after this, which is being run by some members of steering, and I think what's happening is we're just leaving this call on, and I think we'll be unmuting everyone, but I think somebody is going to be made a co-host so that they can continue.
There's 4 rounds, and there's a £20 voucher for the winner. So I know we can't all go down to Luther's and have a drink, but if people want to stay on and have a go at a quiz, please do. It'll be nice to see you all.
It's not all bad news.
But
anyway,
so please stay.
Pardon?
It's quite fun, so please stay.
Only quite fun though.
I just want to say thank you very much to everybody for coming along, and yeah, thanks a lot to Bobby and my other chair for making it a great year. And I'm afraid, without much ceremony, that is the end of the last student council of this academic year. That's it, I'm afraid. not out with a bang, but with a pub quiz.
With a Zoom.
With a Zoom, yeah. So thank you very much all for coming, and best of luck. See you in the future. I'm sure I will. Thanks a lot. If you were staying for the pub quiz, please just stay in the call. Unfortunately, I have to go elsewhere, but I think another co-host will be nominated So thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.